Well, it must be Christmas because the Browns have given us all kinds of things to ask. What the elf was that?
You're listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast, an iconoclastic look at the latest Cleveland Browns news. The What the Elf Was That podcast is part of the Fanatical Elves podcast network, a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Here's your host, Joel Cade.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of What the Elf Was That? And in case you haven't been paying attention, and I'm guessing you have been, but just in case you haven't been, the Browns have started OTAs, otherwise known as the Organized Team Activities. Organized Team Activities is a kind of like summer camp situation, okay? In case for maybe who played, you know what football camp is. This is basically what they're doing. They're going through football camp for like pro athletes. It's important for a few things to be stressed. One, OTAs are voluntary. Players do not have to show up for OTAs. They just don't. Two, it's very light. They're just going to be in t-shirts and shorts and, you know, those kind of half jerseys they like to wear and the helmets. Not a lot going on. There's no hitting. Nobody's going to get, hopefully there's no injuries. Keep your fingers crossed. Not a lot happening with OTAs. However, because this is the Browns, there's always something out there to be talked about. And number one, straight out of the gate, let's talk about the person who didn't show up to OTAs. Now, mind you, again, OTAs are completely voluntary. However, if you have decided this offseason that you're tired of losing, you're sick of losing, you don't want to be in a losing environment, you don't want to lose football games, and you're tired of that situation going on, don't you think you would show up to OTAs to get everyone in place? You want everyone to know that we're on the same page. You want everyone to know that this is the way the season is going to go. You want everyone to be held accountable for their actions. You want everyone to be ready to go to win football games. If you're that guy that wants to win that bad, then absolutely you're showing up to OTAs. But guess who doesn't show up to OTAs? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, MYLES GARRETT, team captain MYLES GARRETT, decides that it's in his best interest not to show up to OTAs. This, mind you, after he did exactly what we just talked about. He cried to the media. He complained that he wanted out of Cleveland. He complained that he's never going to win. He complained that he wants to win Super Bowls because Super Bowls, in this very MYLES Garrett-esque way, is how someone creates their legacy, is winning Super Bowls. And so, therefore, he wants out of Cleveland. And in case you don't remember, because some people have short memories, he went on the media tour, right? Super Bowl week, he goes on the media tour at the can't talk today. That's not good for a podcaster. At the Combine, he went down media alley at the Combine, talking to every media outlet about how he wants out of Cleveland because he wants to win football games. And then organized team activities show up, and the opportunity for MYLES GARRETT as the team captain to set the tone for a winning organization. And where is MYLES GARRETT? Now, in case you don't know, MYLES GARRETT is literally in Japan. He's in Japan. He gets on his Instagram, and there's a picture of MYLES GARRETT holding a bag. If the post, the words, the captions on the picture are looking to move in here, looking to buy property, hit me up if you know someone. Like, he is there shopping to buy property in Japan. I don't know. Is he going to live in Japan? Is he going to like hang out? I mean, clearly he's not going to eat OTAs because he'd rather be in Japan. So, being the best podcaster in the land, I have decided on What the Elf Was That to come up with a list. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is, the list in my hand of the 5 things or places MYLES GARRETT would rather be or be doing than going to OTAs with his teammates. Number 5, and this is pretty easy. Where would MYLES GARRETT rather be than OTAs? Number 5, in Japan looking for property. I know number 5 is kind of a bummer because I already talked about it. But hey, the dude's in Japan. His team that he's getting paid $160 million to play for. He is the captain of this team. He wants to be the defensive player of the year, the defensive MVP, the league MVP. And when it comes to OTAs, he's not there. Now, again, just a reminder, these are all voluntary activities. But back in my day, if you wanted to play, if you wanted to win, you put in the time, the energy, the effort, which means you show up at voluntary workouts to get better. Now, maybe Myles Garrett in Myles Garrett fashion thinks he can't get any better. I could see him acting like that. But number 5, he would rather be in Japan. Number 4. What is the 4th thing that Myles Garrett would rather be doing than being at OTAs? Number 4, playing with dinosaurs. As you may know, Myles Garrett has this thing for dinosaurs. He has little dinosaurs in his locker, the little plastic dinosaurs, and he loves his dinosaurs. Even at the press conference where they announced this idiotic extension for this knucklehead, they have dinosaurs out, little toy dinosaurs out on the podium to make us feel good about Myles Garrett's stupidity so that we'd all look, it's the cute little dinosaur. So Myles Garrett would rather be playing with dinosaurs than playing football. Number 3, what would Myles Garrett rather be doing than be at OTAs with the Cleveland Browns? Number 3, he would rather be writing 6th grade level poetry. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. As you all know, Myles Garrett loves his poetry, and Mary Kay Cabot loves to sit there and ask Myles Garrett to read her his poetry. Now, if you would ever read Myles Garrett's poetry, it is exactly what you would expect $160 million defensive end's poetry to sound like. Number 3, writing 6th grade level poetry. Number 2, gotta love the top 5 list. The number 2 place that Myles Garrett would rather be than at practice, at OTAs with his teammates, is being a guest on the Fanatical Elves podcast so he can explain himself. Okay, well, maybe he doesn't want to be on the Fanatical Elves podcast. By the way, if you would like to listen to the Fanatical Elves podcast, you can find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can probably find it on X. It's hosted by John Suchan, who we will talk about later. Great podcast. We're all the people, the Fans First Sports Network here with the Fanatical Elves Network, including What the Elf Was That? Host me, Joel Cade, the left guard. We come and get together and have our weekly podcast for the Fanatical Elves. Myles Garrett should come on to that podcast. I'm sure he doesn't want to, but he should come onto the podcast and just explain himself. Why is it, Myles, that you basically held out, made a mockery of yourself and of this city and of this team, which everybody seems to have forgotten, run us all through the mud, drag us all through the sewer, and then decide, oh, okay, I'm just gonna show up to OTAs. If you want to be a leader, Myles Garrett, you have to lead. You have to do the things that nobody else wants to do. You have to do the things every day that you don't want to do. You have to get up. You have to put in the work. You have to grind. But because you have that athletic ability that only you have, you don't think you have to do those things. And then when everybody else sees you not doing them, then they don't do them. And then when they don't do them, the team doesn't put the effort necessary to win football games. But you have claimed that you want to win football games, and yet you're on the other side of the world. Explain that to me. What the elf is that? And last but not least, the number 1 place that Myles Garrett would rather be than at OTAs doing his job that again, they're voluntary. Where would he rather be than OTAs? Anywhere. Number 1, Myles Garrett would rather be anywhere than with the Cleveland Browns, because he told us that. He told us he doesn't want to be there. He acts like he doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't want to be there. He would rather be anywhere than dealing with the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know why we continue to root for this guy or cheer for this guy. Dude's a complete knucklehead. Myles Garrett, come on. Long as that toxic individual is around, all we're going to deal with is toxicity. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for break. And I'm going to let you digest that top 5 real quick. But before we go to break, I'm just going to say, hey, look, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like, subscribe, check us out, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, man. Check us out, download us, listen to it, get more top 5s, hit more top 5s are coming after this short break. All right, and we're back. We're going to shift gears off the Browns because there's a lot of stupidity out there today on the Browns because it's OTAs and Browns reporters are looking for things to stir the pot to try to, get some clicks and make some money. So we'll talk about them in a minute. But I want to kind of mention on my AFC North notes the dumbest thing I've heard, and I've had people try to explain this to me as intelligent. I still think it's dumb. Today, Joe Burrow, quarterback of the Kentucky Bengals, came out. I'm actually talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. I derisively call them the Kentucky Bengals. Joe Burrow came out today and complained that the Bengals are going to play the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, which they do every year. That's not the complaint. In primetime at Baltimore. Now, this upsets Joe Burrow. Why? I don't know. When would he want to play him? 1 o'clock? You're going to be in Baltimore at 1 o'clock? I mean, have you been to Baltimore at 1 o'clock on Sunday? I mean, I have. I know what that's about. I'm sure maybe that's why he's upset, is because if the 1 o'clock crowd is full of like homeless people walking in the middle of the street, people high, fights, people starting trouble. I mean, I guess that's probably exponentially worse at night. There's probably more homeless people, more fights, more drugs, more crime. So I kind of get it. Kind of. That's the only logical explanation I can give for this. This guy is literally complaining that his team is playing in prime time. Reminder for all you Browns fans, the Browns have 0 primetime games this year. None. There are no Browns. There's no Thursday night games. There's no Sunday night games. There's no Monday night games for the Browns. Every single game, except for the one in London, is pretty much going to be Sunday at 1 o'clock. Now, that makes it easy for you to communicate to your spouse, hey, Sunday, 1 o'clock, I'm watching the Browns, and when I'm done crying, we'll come out and have dinner. But Joe Burrow doesn't seem to be happy that his team gets on prime time, that everybody gets to watch him, because they have to play the Ravens on prime time for the 4th straight year in Baltimore on prime time. Okay, Joe. So, Joe, following my pattern today, I have compiled the top 5 things that Joe Burrow should actually be complaining about instead of what Joe Burrow is complaining about. Ladies and gentlemen, the top 5 reasons or top 5 things that Joe Burrow should be complaining about instead of what he is complaining about. Number 5, the Bengals defense. Now, those of you who've watched the Bengals, and I've watched the Bengals, I live in Bengals territory. I know what this team's all about. The Bengals defense is not good. They're not good. Teams run up the middle on that defense like no tomorrow. They have Trey Hendrickson, which we'll get to. Sam Hubbard just retired on the other end. Their linebacker core is okay. Their secondary, they let them all leave a free agency a couple years ago, and they've been garbage. And the solution they have is to just hire a new defensive coordinator. And they drafted a guy like the most Myles Garrett-esque guy in the draft. And not because he has Myles Garrett's talent, but because he has all the things that makes Myles Garrett a knucklehead without the actual talent in Shamar Stewart. Okay? So the Bengals defense is in a world of hurt. World of hurt. In fact, if their defense had been average, they would have made the playoffs. Easy if they would just been average, but they're not. They're garbage. That's what Joe Burrow should be complaining about. He can go out there and throw the ball all over the yard, have entire games where the team doesn't punt and still lose. If you had a defense, you might win those games. He's not complaining about that. Now he's complaining that he's got to play in Baltimore. Number 4 of things that Joe Burrow should be complaining about is number 4, the shady owners that own the Kentucky Bungles. These are the people that told Jamar Chase that they were going to rework his contract and pay him. They waited an entire year to make that happen. Okay, and Jamar Chase kept quiet, didn't say anything, waited an entire year to happen. 2 years ago, these same owners told Trey Hendrickson, told you we'd come back around to him, that they would rework his contract and extend him. Trey Hendrickson, by the way, led the league in sacks last year and is a real force as a defensive end. He's probably the only really good defensive player they have. Okay, they told him they'd rework his contract. What have they done? Nothing. According to Trey Hendrickson, they don't even talk to him. His agent calls them, says, hey, let's do this contract, and they won't even answer the phone. Okay? Trey Hendrickson, don't blame him. He's getting his early 30s, wants a payday commensurate to the way he performs. Don't blame him. I agree with him. He wants paid, but the Bungles have gone out. And this is going to get to number 3 real quick. The Bungles have gone out and paid their wide receivers and paid their quarterback and has decided in typical Bengal fashion, we're not going to pay our defense. Further, when it comes to this Trey Hendrickson situation, their owner, the daughter of the owner, Mike Brown, I can't think of her name right now, and it's eluding me, came out and said, some people should just be happy with what they have, referring to Trey Hendrickson. And if you think that's insane, the Bengals are the only team. Let's go into number 3 because this makes more sense than number 3. Number 3. The number 3 thing that Joe Burrow should be complaining about are his cheap ass owners. Okay? The Bengals have the cheapest owner on the planet. Okay? Mike Brown, for the longest time, was his own GM in that team and paid himself millions of dollars in bonuses while riding the bare minimum on the salary cap. I could go into this for a while. Used to be a Bengals fan. I'm not for a lot of these reasons. Cheap owners. But let's talk about the 2 things that make these owners cheap. One, let's talk about this T. Higgins contract. So the Bengals went out, okay, and they did sign Jamar Chase. Big contract, took care of Jamar Chase. Probably only because Joe Burrow threatened, you need to get this done, and Joe Burrow's the money ticket in Kentucky, so they need to keep him happy. So they signed Jamar Chase. Then Joe Burrow said, we need to sign T. Higgins. So the Bungles went out and signed T. Higgins. And you think, oh my gosh, they paid 2 receivers. Well, if you take a look at the contract, you'll get one of these. Not so fast, my friend. If you look at T. Higgins' contract, it's only a 2-year guaranteed contract out of 4 years. And only $40 million of it is guaranteed out of the $100-some million he was given. They basically signed him to a 2-year contract. And the only reason I think T. Higgins signed it was because he was sick of playing on the salary or playing on the franchise tag, which they could have franchise tagged him next year and ran with that too. They're so cheap that they won't even pay the players that they have. Trey Hendrickson, right? Further, how cheap this team is, the Bengals are the only team that does not cover their players for injury during rookie minicamp. So they had their top draft picks sit out of rookie minicamp because they refused to sign an injury waiver. The injury waiver refused to cover them if they got hurt, meaning if they went, let's say Shamar Stewart, who's about as smart as MYLES GARRETT, goes out there and gets hurt. They could pay him less because he's injured than they would have had he not gotten injured. Most, like every other NFL team, has a waiver that says if you get hurt during rookie minicamp, we will pay you anyway. But not the Bengals. The Bengals say if you get hurt, you're screwed. So now they have players not going to rookie minicamp, which is mandatory for rookies, not going to rookie minicamp and sitting out because they're not under contract. And they won't sign them to a contract, nor will they amend their waivers to protect them if they participated in rookie minicamp. That, my friends, is cheap. Just sit there and do what the rest of the NFL does, but not the Bengals. Not the Bengals. Number 2, the second thing that Joe Burrow should be complaining about, but that what he's not, is the offensive line. These people are the factory of injuries. Every year, Joe Burrow gets some injury. Now, you can say every year everybody gets hurt in some level. Correct. But the offensive line in Cincinnati is atrocious. Atrocious. They're signing free agents that if they were really that good, they wouldn't be free agents. Now, one year they did draft that guy Mims who plays right tackle. I'm glad I'm not a Bengals fan. I mean, I think the Browns are bad. My God, you should be a Bengals fan. Anyway, the number one thing that Joe Burrow should actually be complaining about, other than having to play Baltimore in primetime, boo-hoo, is the fact that he plays for the Kentucky Bengals. Like, that's what he should be upset about. That he got drafted by this crap team with crap owners who don't pay people, who don't care about player injuries, who don't do what is necessary. It wasn't until 3 years ago, 2 seasons ago, that they first get an indoor facility. They were practicing outside across the street in open air practice facilities. If you call it a facility, it's just a field they're out there playing in the middle of January and beginning of January, even through playoffs. They're out there in like cold Kentucky weather, playing out there, practicing to play in a game. Terrible, terrible. So Joe Burrow, you're out there complaining about primetime games in Baltimore. And I get the complaint about Baltimore piece. But like, come on, man. What the hell is that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll switch gears because we are now into the bonus round. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have, for parody and fun, compiled another top 5 list. So if you've perused social media today, and today, I mean May 28th, and I'm recording about 2:00 p.m. If you have perused social media, you will have noticed that on the first day of OTAs, the Browns media has come out in droves to create drama, stir the pot, get people to pay attention to them, which is their job, but it's also very toxic. So if you paid attention today, you could hear Tony Rizzo complaining that Shedeur Sanders is not being groomed to be the next quarterback when the Browns have clearly stated that as a 5th-round pick, he will have to earn his way up the depth chart. You will get to listen to Tony Grossi talk about how Joe Flacco should be getting every rep, and they should be going out there and letting him take all the reps and not even have a quarterback competition. You can hear Mary Kay Cabot talk about how Kenny Pickett is the guy for the Browns, and if they don't give Kenny Pickett the reps, then they're just wasting everyone's time. You could also listen to Adam the Bull commenting on Rizzo, commenting on Tony Grossi, commenting on Mary Kay Cabot, because that's part of what he does, is comment on all this, and his stuff is more toxic than the rest of them. So, in light of today's toxic media, I have compiled a list of the 5 worst media members / podcasters in the Cleveland Browns media. Now, this is all in fun and games. I don't actually dislike these people. Well, maybe one, but I don't actually dislike these people. I'm just having some fun. And these are some of my personal reasons. These are not professional reasons that I can actually think of. These are just things that I think are why I think they're toxic. And by toxic, I mean they're just fun to listen to. Don't let these people upset you. Just don't. Just have some fun with it, like me. All right. So the 5 worst podcasts / toxic media Browns football media members are: number 5, Zach Jackson. Now, this one's personal. I have no idea, but I got on X one day. So, you know what? I don't ever hear anything from Zach Jackson. I'm going to follow Zach Jackson. So I type in Zach Jackson. I can't find him. Eventually I figure out that this guy has blocked me. I am blocked by Zach Jackson. And I have no idea why this guy has blocked me. None. I have no idea. I mean, I didn't, for a while, I subscribed to The Athletic. I can't even, I pay for a subscription to a place that I can't even view on X the person that writes for the place. So you know what I did? I just went and canceled my subscription to The Athletic. Who cares? There's nothing that's said on The Athletic that doesn't actually filter down. Somebody's going to take a screenshot and text, tweet it out. So what's the difference? So I just canceled my athletic scholarship or my athletic subscription. Why keep doing it when the guy who's the main Browns guy has blocked you for no reason? I have no idea why the guy's blocked me. But apparently, Zach Jackson has some kind of problem with me, probably because he's listened to my podcast and hear that I'm calling him the fifth most toxic person in Browns media, and blocked me. Whatever, Zach Jackson, you're lost. Number 4, Tony Grossi. Now, you could ask, why is Tony Grossi not number 1? And I'm putting Tony Grossi number 4 because the most important reason for me in my life to have Tony Grossi in it is Art Modell. I was in college when the Browns ceased to exist and moved to Baltimore. That cursed man, Art Modell. And if you want to see me flipping off Art Modell's grave, go to my X, follow me on X at the left guard. Right there, pinned at the top, is a picture of me flipping off not flipping off Tony Grossi, flipping off Art Modell. I might flip off Tony Grossi. I don't know, because Tony Grossi's blocked me too. Now, I probably said something stupid to him, but yeah, he blocked me too. So number 4, Tony Grossi. But the reason I keep putting him at 4 instead of 1 is that because of Tony Grossi, Art Modell has yet to enter the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This man has stood up every time this guy's name comes up and has made the case that he should not be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because of the move. He's also just a dumb owner. I mean, if you just get into the economics of some of the television deals he made, this guy was not smart when it comes to making media deals. And this guy was a marketing guy. I mean, come on. So Tony Grossi, he's toxic as crap, but he's kept Art Modell out of the Hall of Fame, so I'm pretty happy. Number 3, the third most toxic podcast by all Browns members is John Suchan. That's right, John Suchan and his Johnny Cleveland podcast. This guy has all kinds of crazy takes. He gets anxious, he's angry, he's upset, he's frustrated. He says all kinds of weird things like you have to sign Nick Chubb, you have to do this, you have to do that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Look up the Fans First Sports Network, particularly the Fanatical Elves Network, and look for the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Give it a listen. You can find out just exactly why he's that toxic. And while you're doing that, just go ahead and give us subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to the Johnny Cleveland podcast and the Fans First Sports Network and the Fanatical Elves Network. All right, number 2. The second most toxic Browns media member, Anthony Rizzo. Tony Rizzo. If you guys listen to Tony Rizzo, this guy's got all kinds of crazy takes. He was out there saying we should trade Deshaun Watson. I mean, I would agree. Let's trade Deshaun Watson, but you have to understand the salary cap. Like, if you're going to go out there and make these podcasts like this, you ought to at least have some idea of what you're talking about. I'm not content just to sit here and say, I don't know what that's going to do to our salary cap. I'm at least going to try to look it up. And this guy doesn't even try. He doesn't care. Doesn't even try. Okay. Getting to number 1. The most, in my opinion, toxic Browns media member or podcast is Adam the Bull. Now, why would you say Adam the Bull? The guy is a Kentucky Bengals fan, and he's a Browns commentator. This guy's on some podcast talking about the Browns all the time like he's some expert on the Browns. Dude doesn't even like the Browns, and we expect him to give us objective knowledge? Come on, man. That is the most Cleveland thing I've seen. Somebody who doesn't even care is out there giving information on podcasts. That's why he's toxic. All right. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, the last piece of the day. It is the first day of the 10 days of OTA. Now, if you're starting to hear the 12 Days of Christmas song, that should be happening right now. Because on the first day of OTAs, the Browns gave to me one team captain in Japan. A team captain in Japan. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I can't do this anymore. I've had enough of my lists, had enough of this, enough of that. Had enough of the Browns. Had enough of Myles Garrett. I will cheer for the Browns, and I will cheer for the result that Myles Garrett brings, but as a person, I am not rooting for Myles Garrett. I just can't do it. Just can't do it. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, look us up on Spotify. Look me up on X at the Left Guard. Look me up on Spotify. What the Elf Was That? Look us up on Apple Podcasts for the Fans First Sports Network and What the Elf Was That? Give us a like, subscribe, check us out because it is awesome. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, keep asking, what the elf was that?
Thank you for listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast. Please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends to give a listen. You can follow host Joel Cade on Twitter at The Left Guard.